A very good afternoon, everyone. I, Dr. Tanu Kukreja Bhayana, welcome you all to this webinar on educational opportunities for deaf and hard of hearing from early stage to higher education and national and regional context. Om Sterling Global University has always been proactive in taking initiatives pertaining to the societal issues and also the personal and professional growth of our faculty and students. And to continue with the same spirit, we have amongst us esteemed expert of the day, Dr. Mrityunjay Mishra ji, Associate Professor and Head, Department of Hearing Impairment, Dr. Shakuntala Mishra, National Rehabilitation University, Lucknow, Professor Dr. Ajay Podarji, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, Om Sterling Global University, panel expert, esteemed Professor Dr. Shobna Podarji, Professor Management and Dean Corporate Relations and Training. A very warm welcome to all the dignitaries and participants. To begin with, I would like to invite our very own Pro Vice Chancellor, Sir, Professor Dr. Ajay Podarji, who is an exemplary academician and will speak to us from his 3 decades of academic experience. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Tanu. And it is indeed a very, very fine day today that after national conference, what we have done in the last week. And today we have gathered here for another very good webinar on special education with the topic that educational opportunity for deaf and hard of hearing from any stage to higher education, national and regional context. I am indeed very, very happy and welcoming Dr. Mrityunjay Mishra ji, who is Associate Professor in National Rehabilitation University, Lucknow. Welcome to you, Dr. Saab. From the university management side, I am formally welcoming you, and we will be happy to have you on this platform. Many of the participants from our faculty pool, from the outsider, the students, all are actually available on the YouTube, which is linked with this platform. So you may be not seeing the participant, but you can have the comments in the comments box. With that, once again, welcome to you, and I am also eagerly waiting for to hear you that what is actually going on in this context. What are the new tools and techniques has been invented, and how we can contribute to the special education system. Over to you, Dr. Tanu. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It is always an honor to have you, and thank you for taking out the time to talk to us. Now, may I please request Professor Dr. Shobna Podarji, Professor Management, Dean Corporate Relations and Training, Virgin Human Being, to please speak to the audience.
Thank you, Dr. Tanu, and it's really a wonderful topic about educational opportunities for deaf and hard of hearing from early stage to higher education, national and regional contexts. And our by our distinguished speaker, Dr. Mrityunjay Mishra, Associate Professor and Head Department of Hearing Impairment from Dr. Shakuntala Mishra, National Rehabilitation University. And I would like to give some highlights on the learning environment, technology, accommodations, importance of these all techniques for the deaf and hard of hearing students. The built environment of the classroom and schools can have a significant impact on the overall education of students who are deaf and hard of hearing. Providing built environment access for students who depend on their eyes involves both simple and complex planning strategies. Some learning strategies would apply in teaching students with hearing impairment, like encouraging the students with a hearing loss to seat themselves towards the front of the lecture theater, where they will have an unobstructed line of vision. And some commonly used accommodations that are required and that can be included are assistive listening devices, extended time, individual administration, sign language interpreters. So, technology also can, improve the productivity of students who are deaf and hard of hearing. Like augmentative devices help hearing impaired students communication as well. So these are all related to that. Now we would like to hear from our distinguished speaker, and prior to that, over to Dr. Tanu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your words of wisdom. Now, with great honor, I introduce you to the speaker of the day, esteemed Dr. Mrityunjay Mishra ji. Dr. Mrityunjay Mishra ji is an associate professor and head of the Department of Hearing Impairment, Dr. Shakuntala Mishra National Rehabilitation University, Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. He has a long experience of 18 plus years in the field of disability rehabilitation. His main area of interest is capacity building for inclusive education, neurological aspects of deafness, and technological intervention for students with special needs, and also developing modules for manpower in the field of hearing impairment. Sir has published more than 15 papers in the national and international journals and is also an author of two books, Creating an Inclusive School and Trends in ICT Enabled Education. He is an expert committee member in Rehabilitation Council of India for various course curriculums and has written various modules on inclusion. Dr. Mishra is also associated with National Convention of Educators of the Deaf India and various disability associations in the India. He has also been part of various committees for the appointments of persons with disabilities in various government jobs and also sensitized the army personnel in the central command in various parts of India. Sir, it is a real privilege to have you. May I please request you to speak to the audience? Over to you, sir. Uh, I suppose you're mute, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Tanuji, Dr. Ajayji, Dr. Shobnaji. Uh, Before starting my presentation, I just wanted to thank you all for inviting me for this webinar. And this topic is going to broaden the scope of the audience all over the platforms, whatever they are using. So we'll just show how the situation of education of hearing impairment is prevailing in India as well as in the regional level. At the same time, this webinar is basically organized on the eve of World Hearing Day, which was yesterday, 3rd of March of every year is celebrated as World Hearing Day. So for that only, I think this webinar is organized. We are one day late, but it's fine that we can focus on various issues of the children with hearing impairment in Indian context, so that you will be able to. So I will share the presentation. Is it visible?
Yes, sir. It's visible, sir.
So the educational opportunity for deaf and hard of hearing from early stage to higher education, it means a lot, because if you see the education of children with disability, it starts from the date of birth. Because when we know that the child is not able to hear, we should start the education from that. So early, what should be the time we should start the education at an early means after birth. Just after birth, when we come to know about observing various symptoms that the child is not able to hear, we can start the education from that stage. And as well as we are focusing on higher education at university level, we should ensure that their enrollment should increase. So what is the national and regional scenario related to this education opportunities for deaf and hard of hearing? We are going to focus on that. So outline of this presentation we'll be knowing about some facts about hearing loss and World Hearing Day. Second will be magnitude of disability and hearing impairment, issues in the education of children with disabilities, issues in the education of children with hearing impairment, availability of educational opportunities, statistics on education of children with hearing impairment, and in the end, we'll focus on, if time permits, we'll focus on technologies and apps used by teachers and parents for children with hearing impairment. So, if you see in the world by 2050, nearly 2.5 billion people are projected to have some degree of hearing loss, and at least 700 million will require hearing rehabilitation. Over 1 billion young adults are at risk of permanent avoidable hearing loss due to unsafe listening practices. Nowadays, you must have seen that people are using headphones and continuously listening music and talking over phone. So it is unsafe listening practices used by the youth of our country as well as in the world. 1 in 4 people in the world will have some degree of hearing loss by 2050. Over 5% of the world population, or 430 million people, require rehabilitation to address their disabling hearing loss. It is reported by WHO. And in India, if you see, only 5% of the hearing impaired children go to school in India, and 1% of the total deaf population has access to quality education in the country. So the situation is not very good. So, on the occasion of World Hearing Day, which was on March 3rd, we are organizing this webinar. So, theme of this World Hearing Day was to hear for life, listen with care. So, for that, what we need to do? We have to develop a good hearing across the life course through ear and hearing care. Many common causes of hearing loss can be prevented, including hearing loss caused by exposure to loud sounds. Suppose if you see the people exposed to noise uh, in the factory, in the traffic, if you are continuously exposed to loud sounds, there is a chance that you will develop hearing loss. So, safe listening can mitigate the risk of hearing loss associated with the recreational sound exposure. WHO calls upon governments, industry partners, and civil society to raise awareness for and implement evidence-based standard that promotes safe listening. So this is the key message from the WHO on the occasion of World Hearing Day. So what are the causative factors which can lead to hearing loss? So there are some prenatal factors, there are some postnatal factors, as well as there are some neonatal factors also. Prenatal factors like nutritional deficiency, marriage within the near relatives, that is consanguineous marriage, these all may lead to hearing loss in the child, as well as if there is no safe delivery and if the birth weight of the child is below 1200 grams. So these are the some of the causes which may lead to hearing loss in the latter stage. So as well as accidents, use of other high power medicines like toxic medicines, otitis media, like living in an unhygienic environment, that also are some of the causes which may lead to hearing loss. So how we can protect that? So we can develop we can provide maternal nutrition to the pregnant woman, avoid loud sounds and noise. We can maintain hygiene. We can prevent the cause of hearing loss through breastfeeding, good ear hygiene, healthy lifestyle, immunization at the proper stage, good nutrition. So these are the some of the preventive. So WHO has given 3 stages of prevention. Primary stage of prevention like checking before happening. Secondary prevention is providing some amplification devices training so that the impact of hearing loss can be prevented. And third is rehabilitation. So if we start diagnosing the hearing loss at an early age, we can check the impact of that severity, because most of the parents don't know when the child is born. They don't know whether the child is hearing or not. They don't know about the symptoms of not hearing. So that's why the impact and the severity of the loss is doubled. So this year WHO has urged for, like, we have to provide universal access to ear and hearing care using the hearing package of intervention. What is hearing? Hearing is hearing screening and intervention. Whenever we have a doubt, we should screen out and do the assessment. And E for ear disease prevention and management. Most of the hearing loss in the slum areas are due to otitis media, that is perforation in the middle ear, जिसे हम लोग कहते हैं बहता कान, सावधान. So most of the children living in unhealthy conditions, their ear is discharged. That's why it may lead to hearing loss. Access to technology. A for access to technology. R for rehabilitation services. I for improved communication. N for noise reduction. And G for greater community engagement. So this has been urged by WHO that we should provide universal access to ear and hearing care using this hearing package. So this hearing package must be understood by you. Next, we are often unable to define what is disability, whether it is not having one hand or one leg, or not having eye, not having ear. It is not like that. So disability is a social connotation. It is defined by the society only. Who is able and who is disabled, it is still the point of argument over the decades. So disability, as per the physical symptoms, we can tell that some disability are visible and some disability are not visible. So hearing impairment is one kind of that disability which is not easily visible. You cannot say by looking at a person whether he is able to hear or not. Like that, learning disability, autism is also observable, but learning disability you cannot diagnose or tell about the person that the person is learning disabled by just only seeing the physical appearance. But hearing impairment is also that kind of hidden disability. So if you see, some disability may be visible, some disability may not be visible. So it is one of the hidden disability which is not easily diagnosed. If you see the census of 2011, in that they have included these disabilities and they have counted, and 2 crores 68 lakhs 10,557 is the total number of disabled person as per the census 2011. In that they have included only visual impairment, hearing impairment, speech disability, locomotor disability, mental retardation, mental illness, any other disability, and multiple disability. But we have with the enactment of RPWD Act, this 2 crore 60 lakh figure will increase surely, because we have enacted a act which has included 21 disability in a total. So when the new census will be conducted, it was supposed to be conducted in 2021, but due to COVID situation, it has been postponed. When the new census will new census report will come, at that time we'll know what is the magnitude of the disability. So if you see the hearing disability, the number of hearing disability, it is 50,71,007. In that, male and female distribution is given. So if you see the hearing impairment population in birth to 14 years and 15 to 59 years, in the first table, if you see in the rural area, the male population of hearing impairment between the age range of 0 to 14 is 4,29,629, whereas the female population is 3,90,606, and the total population of rural area is 8,20,235. And in urban area, if you see, the number of hearing impairment is less, 1,87,585, and female is 1,69,384, and the total is 3,56,969. So in a total, if you see the population of educable group, it is 11,77,204, and as well as 15 to 59 years. In that, if you see, the educable group is 15 to 25. So if you divide that group also, it will come like how many children are eligible to get education. So if we get that figure, we can plan accordingly. So government should do such kind of analysis and provide education to this needy group. So RPWD Act has included deaf and hard of hearing students and speech and disability mentioned in the RPWD Act. So if you see the international definition, what is hearing loss? A person is who is not able to hear as well as someone with normal hearing, that is hearing threshold of 20 decibel or better in both ear. It is said to have hearing loss. Hearing loss may be mild, moderate, severe, and profound. It can affect one ear or both the ears, and it leads to difficulty in hearing conversational speech or even loud sounds. That I will tell you in detail what is the conversational speech sounds. So how we can start conversation, and what should be the decibel we should use. And the next definition is hard of hearing. It is one of the term which is referred to people with hearing loss ranging from mild to severe. People who are hard of hearing usually communicate through spoken language and can benefit from hearing aids, cochlear implants, and other assistive devices as well as captioning. Whereas the deaf people mostly have profound level of hearing loss, which implies very little or no hearing. They often use sign language as a communication mode. If you see the definition of India, as per the RPWD Act, hearing impairment is a partial or total inability to hear. It is a disability which is subdivided into two categories of deaf and hard of hearing. Deaf means persons having 70 dB hearing loss in speech frequencies in both ears. If you have hearing loss in one ear, you will not be termed as deaf or hard of hearing. In order to be eligible for hard of hearing and deaf, you should have hearing loss in both ears as per the Indian context. Hard of hearing means persons having 60 dB to 70 dB hearing loss in speech frequencies in both ears. So these are the two terms. If you see the Act of 1995, they have only mentioned hearing impairment, but this Act of 2016, they have divided the hearing impaired population into two categories. One is deaf, another is hard of hearing. So how we should get exposure to noise in a week? So normal breathing is 10 dB, and you can listen many times. There is no harmful for your ear. Soft whispering also 30 dB. It is also not affecting our listening capacity or hearing level. Library, if you are sitting in library, the sound is 40 dB. That also is bearable. And normal conversation, the range is 40 to 60. That is also permissible. And with that, there will be no harm to your hearing level. If you are listening to the doorbell, that is 80 dB. So in a week, you can hear it for 48 hours. Heavy traffic, if you are inside the car, it's the traffic signal in the loudness of the traffic, heavy traffic is 85 decibel. So you can hear that 12 hours, 30 minutes in a week. Shouted conversation, that is also 90 dB. That also is permissible 4 hours in a week. Motorcycle, 95 dB. That also 1 hour, 15 minutes in a week. Hair dryer. So if you see all these situations, how many times we are exposed to noise and how we can avoid them being exposed to this kind of noises or loud sounds, so we can protect our hearing. So if you are shouting with any of the family members at home, so at that time your voice is high and you may cross 100 dB. So if you are using firecrackers, so it is more than 150 dB. So it is to be avoided because it may hamper your hearing skill. So these are some of the examples which is given by WHO, said how we can protect our hearing by exposure to loud sounds or normal sounds or soft sounds or comfortable sounds. As I was talking, that we should know about this speech banana. If we understand this speech banana, if you see there is a yellow person looking like banana, that's why it's called speech banana. So if you see the different speech sounds which are used like vowels, consonants, that lies between 40 to 60 decibel. So if a child is not able to hear the sound at 40 to 60 dB, that means the child has some problem in hearing. Below that, like water tap, and also the tick tick of gadi and child birds chirping. These all sounds are not at all hearing, not heard by the child, because the child is not able to hear the speech sounds. How he can? But if you see, the child may be able to. If the child's hearing loss is 40 to 60 dB, the child will be able to hear the dogs barking, piano, telephone ringing, as well as the grass cutting machine, the truck horn, as well as the aeroplane and firecrackers, that he can listen. So if you understand this speech banana, you will able to know what is the level of hearing loss of that particular child or person. So below 20 is normal. Above 20 to 40 is mild hearing loss. 41 to 55 is moderate level of hearing loss. 56 to 70 is moderately severe, and 71 to 90 is severe, and above 90 it is profound. So as the loss range will increase, the problem will increase. So we can minimize that problem by adopting some suitable techniques, or some amplification devices can be used if the child is developing an hearing loss. So this is the normal audiogram. If you go to a audiologist, he will test your ear, both ear. If you see, there are some round and cross symbols are there. Round and red is for right ear, and blue and cross is for left ear. So if you got a report like this, your hearing is in normal limit, that there is no problem with your hearing. But if you see there is some problem in this audiogram, because the person is not able to hear the high frequency sounds. So above 2000 frequencies, that person is having problem. So we should be able to know about seeing the diagram or the report from the audiologist, that how much hearing loss or what is the hearing limit of my. And if you see the profound or severe, so this in this, the person is not able to hear the sounds below 60 decibels. So he may be able to hear sounds at 110, at 250 hertz, but if you see, high frequency sounds are missing in the left ear as well as right ear. If you see, high frequency sounds is sloping. So this kind of audiogram is known as sloping audiogram. So there are various, if you test 100 people, the audiogram will be 100 types. No two audiograms will be similar, because our hearing capability is different. So after understanding about the hearing loss, we should know about what are the challenges the children with disabilities facing in India. So UNESCO has published a report in 2019. In that, they have mentioned there are more than 78 lakh children with disability in India, and out of that, only 61% of them are attending educational institution. So 39% are still out of the school. About 12% of the CWD are dropped out, while 27% never gone to school. there are fewer girls with disability. If you see, still it is prevailing that we prefer is boy than a girl. If there is a girl born to the family, we are very sad. But when the boy is born, we distribute sweets and we celebrate and we talk to people. So, with that attitude of the society, their education is also affected because no parents allow a girl with disability to get education. They just keep her in the household and they tell that to do the household work. So 45% of the children with disability fail to attain literacy as proper education is not given to them. 20% of children with hearing and visual impairment had never been to school. This is the dismal figure. Like we are talking about Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, everything we are talking about, but still the population of disabled, the children with disabilities are denied and not getting proper education in the Indian context. More than 50% of the children with multiple disability, mental retardation, and mental illness do not attend school. There is no schools in the neighborhood who would cater their needs. If the parents will shift to urban area or semi-urban area with having special schools or therapy centers or rehabilitation centers or intervention center, then only they can. When I was working in Rajasthan, I had the experience that people coming from 300, 400 kilometers to Jaipur to get their child educated because there is no educational facilities in that particular area. It is available everywhere. It is prevalent everywhere that education of disabled is not available everywhere. If we are talking about inclusive education, there is no facilities for them to get educated. So RTE mandated right to education mandates enrollment but no provision of resource needed for the education of children with disabilities. And if you see the act, there is some ambiguity. Where the CWD should study, who should teach them, it is not speaking about them. Gaps in appropriate norms and standard applicable to all educational institutions. Like if you are running a private school, you are denying at that time what should the child with disability or parents should do. Lack of accessible physical infrastructure, assistive technology, ICT devices aggravates the situation of school dropout among disabled children. Inadequate allocation, delay, and underutilization of funds are key challenges in their education. 75.83% enrolled in elementary and secondary level education. Learning outcome in class 5 is 54.69 and in class 8 it is 44. So the learning outcome is also dismal. 17.6 are dropped out. 2.97% of children are out of school. 81.15% of the school teachers are not professionally qualified. Shortage of teachers, particularly who are sufficiently trained to include children with disability in regular school. In India, out of the 300 plus indicators in the Sustainable Development Goal, only 3 indicators mention specifically about disability, whereas United Nations has mentioned in 7 targets and 11 indicators. Current indicators are not developed in accordance with the UNCRPD and Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016. So we need to look upon that. So after discussing about the challenges of disabled, we are coming to the challenges faced by the children with hearing impairment. The main problem of these children is literacy. They don't have that kind of reading and writing skills as it is creating hurdle in their education. If you see this example, if I say a cat saw a picture of mouse on the wall, so the how the hearing impaired or deaf is perceiving to that. In the 5 pictures, he is perceiving like that. Saw means he is perceiving like it is saw. Picture means he is looking after some pictures of a mouse on the wall. So if we are not able to develop their literacy skill, their education will be affected. So, what they prefer, to use, what communication modalities they are using. The DHH population and speech disabled generally prefer speech and lip reading, speech and auditory, multimodal style, AR writing, print or reading, use of Indian Sign Language. These are some of the modalities they use in communicating. And if you see the education of DHH in India, there are three philosophies working. One philosophy with oralism, they tell that the child will be able to speak if we provide proper amplification and training. And one group is telling it is a condition, so you cannot correct it through amplification. So let the child use sign language, that is manualism. And another group of professionals, they are trying to use both, that is total communication or bilingual communication. Bilingual communication is different from total communication. Total communication is use of simultaneous communications modes for the child, whereas the bilingual mode of education, what they are highlighting, they are telling that the child should learn the sign first, then they should be able to, because sign language is considered as the mother tongue of the deaf population. That's why this group, bilingual education, those who are favoring philosophy of those who are following the bilingual philosophy, they are telling we can develop literacy in the deaf through sign. Because if you see, no person in India has learnt English from the birth. They have learnt English based on their mother tongue. Like I have developed my English through my mother tongue. You have developed your English skill through your mother tongue. So, like that, thus the follower of this philosophy, they are telling, as the mother tongue of the deaf population is sign, it should be developed like that. They should learn other language based on the mother tongue, that is sign language. So the risk associated with hearing loss, if you have a problem with hearing, you will not be able to speak. And if you are not able to speak, your reading, writing will be affected. And if your reading and writing, if you give any question to a deaf or hard of hearing people, they will write like the grammar is different. Because if you see, the grammar of our written and spoken language is different from that grammar of sign language. So the reading and writing is affected. As a result, the academic competence in them is affected. So what are the concomitant risk of DHH? That is communication barrier. As a result, that may lead to pedagogical challenges for teachers. And as there is communication barrier and pedagogical challenges, it heightens the risk of online learning as well as offline learning. And we need to have accessible e-content for them. So what is accessible e-content? I can give you some example after this presentation is over. So the next presentation title is availability of educational opportunity. If you see the educational opportunity for the DHH in India, it is offered through three modes. One is formal mode, second is non-formal mode, third is cultural mode. So if you see in the formal mode, pre-primary education, parent education, parent-infant program, and after that, they go for primary education, secondary education, and higher education. If you see non-formal mode of education, NIOS, IGNOU, and other open universities are offering various programs for the DHH group, as well as in the private mode. They can go for. If you see the situation of pre-primary, primary, it is available all over India, whereas secondary and higher education is limited. In state of Uttar Pradesh, no school is offering class 9th level of education in whole of Uttar Pradesh. So the child is forced to study in a special school and appear in a regular school in the private mode. And the cultural mode, like the deaf people DHH group, they have their own association, they have their deaf clubs, they have their own conferences, seminars through which they get some educational opportunities. So the type of schools available for DHH students in India is special school, integrated school, and inclusive school. So the early intervention is done through various ways, like the services offered in these early intervention centers are audiological assessment, so treatment of amplification devices, listening training, speech and language intervention, parents training, psychological support, educational guidance, integration program, curricular support program. So these are the services which are offered for the DHH group at early intervention centers. So if a child coming with problem in hearing, the child will be first done audiological assessment. Then if there is any hearing loss, the audiological devices, the amplification devices like hearing aid, cochlear implantation, as per the needs and the capacity of the person. If government is providing free of cost, at the same time, the private companies are also selling high quality hearing aids. So if the parent is not able to afford for the price of the private companies, they can go for the free hearing aids given by the government agencies. After the implantation of the hearing aid, no child is able to hear if he is not given the listening training. So if a child is coming at the age of 3 years and before till 3 years, he has not listened anything. So how he will know it is the sound of my father, it is the sound of my mother. So listening training is given to improve his localization skill, comprehension skill, as well as expression skill. Speech and language intervention is given side by side with the audiological training. Parents are empowered that how they can undertake lessons at home environment which they are undergoing in the intervention centers. Psychological support, because if you see most of the parents, they are under stress when they come to know that the child is disabled. So psychological support must be given to those parents at these early intervention centers. Educational guidance, like how the child will get education after passing out from this early intervention, that is preschool level. So that also guidance is given. Integration program where the child can be integrated, and if the child is having some problem in the school where he is integrated, he can be supported with subcurricular support programs. If you see, Government of India has established these CRCs in which cross disability early intervention centers are opened. So in that they can get free education. Apart from that, there are some correspondence courses for the parents which are being offered by AYJ, NIHH, CITD, John Tracy Clinic of America, and All India Institute of Medical Sciences, All India Institute of Speech and Hearing, Mysuru. As well as at the same time, if you see parent infant program where the target is not the child, the target is parent, because the parent needs to be trained how to develop listening skill in their children. So for that, these organizations are offering parent infant program. Contact training. If you are living in a far area and you are not able to go regularly, so you can attend this contact training program for the parents and learn something and come back and educate your child. So the preschool training program is also running, like various national institute like AYJ, NISHD, Mumbai, and All India Institute of Speech and Hearing, Mysuru, are running special preschool for deaf and hard of hearing students. Non-government organizations are also running in preschool program. Various cochlear implant rehabilitation center also running preschool program. If a child come between the age of 1 to 5, and if the child is fitted with cochlear implant, he need to be undergo auditory verbal therapy so that the child will be able to speak properly. State government like Uttar Pradesh is running Bachpan daycare centers for preschool programs. In that, the children between the age group of 3 to 6 are admitted and provide education by this Bachpan daycare center. Special school. So after passing out from preschool education, the child need to go for primary, secondary as well as higher secondary education. So if you see the situation of number of special school state as well as unitary wise, you can see from this table that the highest number of schools are in Tamil Nadu, whereas one school in many states. So this is the situation. If you see the situation of Haryana, there are only number of special school for children with hearing impairment is 8. And if you see the population, whether it is matching or not. And we know with this you will able to know the number only. But how many children are getting educated in that, you are not aware of. College and higher education. So there are the St. Louis College for the Deaf, Chennai is the first college for the deaf in India and second in Asia. Apart from that, Dr. Ambedkar Institute of Technology for Handicap, Kanpur is a college which is offering BTech courses for the disabled. Dr. Sakuntala Misra University, Lucknow, in which I am working, in that various program in which 50% reservation is given to the persons with disabilities, those who are passing intermediate level of education. And we are running also 11th and 12th level of education for the deaf and hard of hearing in our campus. NDFC Technical Institute College for the Deaf, Kerala, Kalasalingam University, Tamil Nadu, National Institute of Speech and Hearing, Trivandrum, JSS Polytechnic for Differently Abled, Mysuru, Karnataka, Training College for the Adult Deaf, Hyderabad and Ahmedabad, CSI Vocational High School for the Deaf, Kerala, and Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi is also running some of the courses for these DHS groups. Apart from that, formal education, if you see the vocational training center, it is also running all over India through these centers as well as vocational rehabilitation center situated in every state. This is the status of education of CWSN in Inclusive Education 2015-16 class 1 to 8 all India. If you see, only 2,40,949 students are enrolled in Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan. If you see the enrollment in higher education, it is very pathetic. Only 0.5% of the total students, which a survey was conducted by NCPEDP in 2015, and they saw out of 15,21,038 students enrolled in different courses, only 8,449 students were disabled. Out of that, if you analyze in percentage wise, the orthopedic disabilities comprise more. Their percentage was 46.67%. Student with visual impairment 32.13%, whereas student with speech and hearing impairment only 5.16% at the higher education level. So this is very dismal situation, and we are not able to provide opportunity for them at higher education. And in the elementary also, we are also neglecting them. If you see the schemes which are used for by government or non-government organizations, DDR, Din Dayal Rehabilitation Scheme, in that the NGOs are given financial assistance to run educational services for this particular disabled. And EDIP scheme, which is run by Government of India through different state government and NGOs to provide amplification devices like cochlear implant, is also provided free of cost through this scheme. Pre and post matric scholarship is also given. Rajiv Gandhi National Fellowship for Research. If a person with disability is enrolled for a PhD program, they will get Rajiv Gandhi National Fellowship program fellowship from the UGC. Overseas scholarship also provided if a person with disability want to study abroad. Reservation in admission, like till now, 5% reservation is given in the admission in all educational institutions, and in the employment, if you see, 4% reservation is given. Relaxation in age, relaxation to one language per DHH, because the main problem of this DHH group is language. So, like we have learnt first language, second language, and third language. So for them, one language is difficult, and if we force them to study three language, that is also challenging. So most of the state government are forcing them to study three language. Only they are copying and passing out. They don't know what is the languages. Relaxation in examination by objective questions and everything. It is also guidelines issued by the Ministry of Social Justice. So in the end, I'll just skip in a hurry that now you must have understood what is the situation of what are the educational opportunities for this DHH group from early stage to higher education, and what are the lacking and how we can help them. So the technology is the best solution for providing education. So if you see what are the types of technology, it is assistive listening devices, telecommunication devices, speech to text translation, computerized softwares, alerting devices. So assistive listening devices that like hearing aid must be provided at an early age, and suitable amplification. If the hearing aid is fitted and it is not supporting in hearing, then it is of no help. So we should implant, we should fit suitable hearing aid. Telecommunication device like open captions. If the person is not able to hear, we can use captioning techniques. So there are basically two types of captioning techniques that are used in now. If you see in OTT platform, everywhere they are using captioning, and if you see the news also and movies of today's, they are using this captioning because it is helpful for the DHH group. Computerized speech to text translation also available. Alerting devices like vibrotactile devices. If a person with a hearing impairment is inside the house and is not able to hear the doorbell, at that time we can put a vibrotactile devices in his hand, and it should be connected with Bluetooth, so that when we want to inform that person, we can use that technology. So there are many technologies we can deal that because time is very short. So I cannot talk about more of the technologies being used. So now these emerging technologies coming up, Google Classes equipped with sign language interpreters. Like if the person is talking to you, and that will translate your voice or your text into sign through these Google Classes. Technology for teaching learning, like we can use sign language, bilingual media, augmented reality, virtual reality in our classroom. And these are some of the apps which are used by and for this DHH group. So it helps in hearing as well as learning sign. If a person with deafness, he want to connect with you and you don't know sign, at that time this signable app will help to connect between you. So the take away message of this lecture, if we identify the children with hearing impairment at an early stage and intervene it is the best possible solution for the education. And we should not force any parents go for this mode, go for that mode. It's up to the parents. They should choose what mode of communication they should opt for their child. Print and e-content needs to be supported by pictures and interpretation. Not only giving a book or giving a digital content will help them. We should supplement with pictures as well as interpreters. So these are the takeaway message we should take before leaving this presentation. And I just wanted to show one of the video materials we prepared, our B.Ed level student have prepared, and it can be helpful for you to just see how they have developed. And this kind of digital things must be developed.
Class 3rd. 7th. Subject Science, Unit 3, Chapter Fiber to Fabric. Life cycle of silk moth and processing of silk. Silk. Silk fiber is obtained from the cocoon of the silk moth. The rearing of silkworms to obtain silk is termed as sericulture. The silk fibers obtained are weaved to make silk cloth. Types of silk. Tussar silk, Munga silk, Kosha silk are the most commonly known silk varieties. The most
I think with this video, you could have developed an understanding that how we can make accessible technology for this group. So with this, I think I'm able to complete my lecture on time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I know you really had to quick forward it, but thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for talking in detail about disability, some very important data and facts pertaining to it, and what to do about it. Thank you for talking in detail about educational opportunities and special schools for our special children and much more. I'm sure that session has helped each one of us in better understanding of the concept. Once again, a lot of thanks for joining us. And my sincere thanks to Professor Ajay Podarji, Honorable Pro Vice Chancellor, for his able mentoring and guidance, Professor Shobna Podarji for organizing this webinar, and my sincere gratitude to our dear Chancellor, Dr. Puneet Goyalji, Honorable Pro Chancellor, Dr. Poonam Goyalji, and our worthy Vice Chancellor, Professor N.P. Kaushikji, for their inspiration and being the guidance force always. Thank you. Now, may I please request everybody to rise for the national anthem.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. It was real honor to hear you. Thank you.
If you could have arranged an interactive session, that could have been
Sir, the audience actually is putting a lot of comments for you in their chat box through live YouTube, and they have been appreciating you for this seminar, this webinar. Thank you.
I think Dr. Sobna wants to say something.
Right, ma'am. All right. So thank you so much, sir, for joining. We call it a day now. Thank you.